Hello, everybody. A good morning to you. For those of you out my way, I'm out in Portland, Oregon. It's one of the indie, it's one of the indie places. Got a new computer, so I just gotta, I gotta check something here. There's like a green screen behind me, so I can do this. If you want the Portland thing, let's just keep it this. Keep it simple. I'm Doug Zanger, editor-in-chief and founder of Indie Agency News. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to those of you who are members. Thank you so much for your support. Your generosity helps us build the global home for independent agencies. Our mission is to serve independent agencies and the brilliant people behind them. It's all about more visibility for independent agencies and more choice for marketers. Yes, we want marketers to dig into this because there are a lot of great indie agencies around the world, and they do amazing work. Programming tomorrow. Fridays are always about fun and games. And someone just texted me and is like, "Are you okay? You sound a little like you sound slower than usual or like quieter than usual." I'm allergic to cats, dogs, and horses, and I was around all three of them. And so yesterday, so the allergy stuff is just not kicking in yet. So I might be a little slow, but I can tell you that I will not be slow tomorrow. For Fridays are about fun and games. And tomorrow it is our show Liar. And our friend Alexander Ray from Aux is our contestant. We're working on a judge right now. So he's not going to know who the judge is going to be. It might be me. I'm thinking that might be the move. And then next week, Monday, Indie Agency News Radio, we're talking to Kai D. Wright and Bennett Bennett, some new research around DEI that is promising, but we do want to dig into some questions as to whether this is progress in meaningful ways and how. So join us Monday. Every day we have a show at 9 a.m. Next week also, we will be in Boulder. So Indie Agency News is on the road. If you are in Denver, Boulder, join us on the 29th at Fortnite Collective in Boulder for a great session. My friend Kyle O'Brien from Adweek will be there, and we're talking about storytelling and some of the best stories we've ever told. A lot of the stories I told were like around creativity, and I'm excited for today for Indie Work Live. So one of our great Indie Agency News members is Walrus. Francis and Deacon have been friends of the family for a very, very long time, and I'm grateful for their support. And we're gonna bring Jillian on here shortly, but I want to start. Let's start with this.
OMG, if you want clean snackies, you gotta look for the Basic Bees, the brown bag. This trail mix is like real scrummy with no fake ingredients that aren't cute.
So Jillian Dresser, creative director at Walrus. It took me a second to like latch into that, and I kept watching it again and again and again, and I was like, oh, this is so good. and it's like, okay, I got it quick. Like at first, maybe I was still on allergy medicine, but I was looking at it going, oh my God, this is so good. So break down the client. Let's talk about the brief. And so let's start with that, and then we'll talk about the category because it's wickedly competitive, like insanely competitive. Sure. But let's start with the brief and where you went with that.
Sure. Well, first of all, Doug, thank you for having me on here. I'm excited to talk about this. So Lowe's Foods is a client of ours. They're a grocery store chain in the Carolinas. So they're in North Carolina and South Carolina. And their private label brand or their store brand, you know how grocery stores have their own product line. Theirs is called Brown Bag, and it's called that because they use a brown paper bag texture on their products. But what differentiates it from other stores is that they're all clean ingredient, right? So they don't have things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial dyes and preservatives and things like that. And so the brief was super simple. It was really to just tell people that they're their snack line and their food is clean ingredient, it's junk free.
Right.
And yeah.
I mean, that's it's so nice to have an easy brief, right?
Yeah. It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So, and easy is not the right word. You just said it. Straightforward. Easy is not the right word. So I misspoke on that. So straightforward, there's that one element of, oh, good. And then there's the other element of, oh, okay. Now it's like, okay, ideas, let's go, let's start moving, let's look at strategy, let's look at all these other pieces. So the simplicity of it is great, but then one of the things that we talk about in creativity a lot, that creatives understand, and is this idea of constraint. And sometimes having a level, a constraint could be time-based, it could be deadlines, but in this case, when you start looking at the brief, you didn't have a ton of constraint here. So how did you start figuring out, okay, this is the direction that we're going to go strategically?
Yeah. Well, this isn't the first time that we've worked on the brown bag line for them. I think in the past, we were a little bit more complex. We focused on all of the ingredients and the products that they don't have, and sort of the negatives. They don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have that, they don't have junk. And this time we kind of flipped it and thought about, what's the positive side of brown bag? And we kind of boiled it down to it being basic. And that was like the creative launch point basically for the whole thing, and the idea when it was on paper, it was so simple. It was just, it's a basic product. So let's use a basic girl spokesperson to sell it.
Let's watch another one of these 15. I do want to talk about it because there's 15s, 10s, 6s, and then on TikTok. So let's watch the second one.
If you can't even with fake ingredients, you have to get brown bag from Lowe's Foods. Look at all this yum. Granola, fruit, OJ, honey, yogurt. No high fructose corn syrup or anything cringe like that. So good. I literally died.
I mean, you're playing into this social, the way social culture is and internet culture is, and trope is the word. I mean, it is what it is. And it's very easy to let that get out of control. But here's the other thing that I've always appreciated about great creatives, present company included, is that the one of the qualities that people don't necessarily talk about creativity is, so we have constraint, but then also restraint. So the way that you set this up, there's enough bigness to it that it punches through, but it's not so over the top that it becomes cartoonish and loses its impact. So talk about this idea of how you restrained it. And I don't know if that was in the direction, because my guess is that probably as you're shooting this, you're telling the actor, go bigger here. Let's try it. Let's find where the rhythm is. So I'm curious about this idea of how you balance that to make sure that there was good restraint while still punching through.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the biggest challenges in shooting this, was casting and finding the right person, and also getting the character just right. I think we all know this person, right? The basic girl. I mean, yes. Where SNL has been spoofing her. We're all a little basic inside, so we all know it. But making sure there's a fine line with it between comedy and cringe, and we didn't want people to think that if she were too sincere, maybe it would come across that Lowe's Foods was being serious and using the girl as someone that's aspirational in some way. And we didn't want that. We wanted to make sure it was comedy from the get-go. So we dialed her up we felt just enough to where it was you knew we were joking, right? We were making fun of this character and we were in on the joke. But yeah, we didn't want to go too far so that it was just so over the top that it wasn't relatable. Right.
It felt like a 6, you got it to 6.
Yeah.
You couldn't go straight up the middle with a 5. You couldn't get up to an 8. So yeah, it felt like it was a 6. Yeah. And there's almost an understatedness of this. So let's watch the third one, because again, just notice this part here as you're watching it.
Chunky blanket, scarf, slips, and Lowe's Foods brown bag mac and cheese. If you want to get all cozy without any ingredients that are not vibes, that's all you need.
was so, again, it's so fine. It's so hard to balance that. That could have just gone, that could have gone so many different ways. Talk a little bit about how the talent, how she was being directed. Talk a little bit. Let's do a little behind the scenes here, because again, like, let's try it. But what were some of the things that as the team you were directing her on?
Yeah, we took a lot of takes. I mean, we started with her just kind of reading the lines straight and then building from there. And, you know, we gave her pieces of direction, like, okay, what if you try it like just a little bit more slightly unhinged, or, you know, bigger and smaller and things like that. And we had the props were kind of part of it too, you know, where she like is holding the mac and cheese and she's got the cozy blanket. We tried some things where it was like, we over exaggerated those props maybe to bring out the basic girl nature. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So, I mean, we definitely played around a lot on set to just get it right.
But even taking a look at the design and for you know, agency folks, for creative folks, but in particular for brands, you know, for clients, they need to understand just how much time and care. You know, I think that we make everything look, there's this idea of like, oh, you make it look so easy. Well, it's many, many years of experience and lots of input, and every choice that you make, and production design in particular, because you're right, you could have gone so cartoony with the props. You could have gone, there were so many ways, and the palette. So again, talk a little bit about the palette, because that's a very considered choice. So if I'm a brand working with you and your team, like there is a reason for all of that. Talk a little bit about that palette, because that's another thing that stood out to me.
Yeah. Well, I think we found the perfect apartment in Brooklyn. That's where we shot it. That already had this look, like it was right out of like the Magnolia, you know, interior design collection. And we just kind of added to it from there. Like I think we bought every single live, laugh, love sign there was at TJ Maxx. Had all that on hand, and we put a lot in. We pulled some stuff back, and we wanted the palette to be pretty neutral, like the sort of the modern millennial basic girl kind of beige and white look.
But it had enough pop in it, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so it didn't wash out. It didn't wash out.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah, it's really good. So I wanted to talk a little bit, because again, I mentioned that we played 315s, we have 10s, and then we have a couple of 10s that we'll play, and then we've got some 6s, and then TikTok. I'm a big fan of talking about workhorse creative. Now, again, you have this constraint of time, and you can make things overly dense in that very finite amount of time. And this is coming from the old radio days, where we try to put 7 pounds of sausage into a 2-pound casing, which is, you know, the word count is 85. Oh yeah, it's 123. Jam that in. So before we talk about these 10s, and let's, again, 15s, 10s, and 6s, how did you balance out ensuring that it wasn't over dense or undercooked?
Yeah. The way we did it was we shot 20 spots.
Oh my God.
So we were able to spread out all of our talking points through all these short form spots. And they each started with a product. Actually, our client had a list of products they wanted to feature. So we thought about the product being one product in each spot. And that's kind of how we broke it out. And so we were able to hit every point in that way.
But even then, there is this proclivity, and I'm saying this maybe potentially from the client side, where it's like, can we add a couple words in there? And they, no, you should, no, please don't, please.
For sure.
Please don't do that.
I think seeing it as like this whole package really helped.
Yeah.
It's these 20 different spots. They're all going to be running at the same time. So I felt like they felt comfortable with dividing it up.
No, and that's great. Credit to them. Let's watch these 2 10s.
Hot take, artificial flavors fell off. That's why brown bag OJ lives rent-free in my mouth. It's literally just oranges.
I think that might be my favorite. Let's watch this.
That one's one of my favorites too.
Yeah. Let's watch this one.
Wait, I'm so shook at these strawberry serrano preserves. The ingredients are so basic.
Six here real quick.
Brown bag chicken and bacon Sakatini hits different. Period. Don't sleep on it. It's a mood. I'd die.
So in the 10s and the 6s, it looks like that the energy is up. So we went from about a 6 to about a 7 or an 8. And I have to imagine that that's by design, because 15 and the difference between 5 seconds can be it seems like it's not a lot, but it is honestly a lifetime when it comes to that. So in the 10s, you're paced up a little bit. Her energy is up a little bit. Talk a little bit about how you approach that.
Yeah, I think for some of them, we wrote the scripts and then we figured out, okay, which ones will they fit in? This one feels like a 15. This one is short enough. It could be a 6. Yeah. And then the 10s were sort of that in-between zone where we did kind of like sometimes cram a lot in it, but it worked with her character to sort of be like a little high energy in moments, I think.
Yeah. And it was definitely, because I know from voicing stuff like this, when you have that time, a lot of times your delivery is more staccato. Mm-hmm. And so that's just I think that's more of a natural thing that tends to happen. How long have you been working with this client?
This is our 5th year.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Let's talk a little bit about how the creative has evolved, because I love Southern grocery stores. It's like you got the Food Lion, you got it's really, really interesting because it is such a competitive category, grocery broadly, but then you start getting into some of these specific categories. How has the creative evolved since you started working with them, over these 5 years? And then the other question is, having built up this trust, how do you sell in good work like this to your client?
Right. From the get-go, we've always had this sort of tone. This like the twist of wit is a term we throw out a lot. From the beginning, it's had this tone, and I think around this time last year we developed a brand platform for them. No One Foods Like Lowe's Foods, and that's been a really good strategy and tagline for us for the work to ladder up to. And it's true for the brand. They're a really different grocery store. They offer like a lot of different original things than your Publix or your Kroger.
Right.
And so our line is No One Foods Like Lowe's Foods. And so we use that to differentiate the store, but also the work, also the advertising. So we make sure that nobody advertises like Lowe's Foods. And that's what's been able to keep us different from your Publix. Right. And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I love the fact that, back in the day, and you and I were, well, I'm more back in the day than you are, far more back in the day than you are. But back in the day, you could get away with being a little bit wild with the positioning, but to establish a brand platform is really, really important. And I give you a lot of credit for nailing something that's simple and very clear and very understandable. And I have to imagine that affords a lot of creative freedom, because now you know exactly where you're starting from.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk. So I mean, if you want to talk results, we can, but it just seems like that this work is so good and it's such a great store. I have to imagine that the advertising's working.
Yeah. I mean, they're still working with us, so
that's always a good sign.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Yeah.
Well, what is the feedback? I mean, so again, how do you sell in that work? And then what is the feedback that you're getting from your client on all the work?
Yeah. How we sell it in. I mean, we've built a really good relationship over the past 5 years with them. And I think, we don't really work that hard to try to sell them on big ideas. I think we work hard at trying to just make ideas that'll sell themselves. And I think, when you've got something that sort of taps into like a cultural trope or a universal truth about people, it helps sell itself.
Right.
And I think we've been trying to do a good job of making work that's as absurd as we want to, but as long as it checks every single objective on the brief, it can sell. So
yeah,
that's our way of thinking.
And that's such a great way of structuring it too, right? So you have the objectives, and then ensure that's such a great filtering mechanism. So yeah, there are definitely there's a lot of value in that, because then it's like, okay, demonstrating how this connects to what the objectives are and being able to explain it. Listen, I hate to break it to everybody, but we're all in sales. Let's take a look at some TikTok. Hold on, let's watch this. I think you and I are in the background, so I still got to figure out how to use StreamYard. Hold on one sec. Let's try this. Here we go.
Ew, ick, ugh, cringe, thirsty, horny, busted. Luckily, Lowe's Foods brown bag doesn't have any nasties. Heart it.
All right, let's watch this one.
Food fam, you have to try this mac and cheese from Lowe's Foods. It's a real one, like literally the ingredients are real. I reco eating it out of a mason jar while sitting in a tire swing. It's so numbers, you guys.
Love that one. Oh my, you know who she reminds me of in that one? I forget the name of, she's the designer that redesigns all the corporate logos on TikTok.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Zugai.
I don't remember her name, but I've seen.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
we've wanted to sort of make fun of the TikTok tropes for a while, with the superimposing the yourself over things.
So the tire swing thing, just absolutely killed me. It's so good. Oh my gosh. No, this is outstanding. So where do you take all this from here? Because so old school ad people know, and creative people remember, like Real Men of Genius and some of the stuff from when we were coming up. There's a similar thing here where there's so many opportunities to tell more, add more chapters to this. Where do you take this?
Well, I really hope we can bring her back. I would love to have her come back and do more, especially for like Christmas. We feel like Basic Girl Christmas is something we could play off of. But I mean, hopefully she'll stick around.
Oh my gosh. No, I would love that. Maybe, have you talked about bringing in additional characters or just keeping it?
We haven't yet, but that could be fun.
Yeah. Basic Girl and her friend.
Right.
And the dog. And okay, sorry, this isn't a brainstorming session. I don't. So let's talk about your tenure at Walrus. Again, absolutely love the agency. Such wonderful people there. What have you enjoyed during your tenure there?
I mean, the work that we do always has been fun. I've been at Walrus on and off for about 15 years. I started as an art director, and now I'm a creative director. And we've always kind of done work that's been, misbehaving in ways, and it's always been fun.
I like a little bit of subversion. I like a lot, and honestly, you've got this great brand and this great work that you're doing, and there's a lot more to tuck into, because when I talk to Francis and Deacon, it's like, here are all the things that we're doing. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about that, but this was the most immediate thing. So Jillian, I'm going to have you go backstage here in a second as we wrap up, but thank you so much. I honestly, I just think this work is so great, so fun, so clear, so clean. Just, you know what? All the awards. If I had anything to say, they get all the awards. But most importantly, it's the reward of being able to work with a great client and putting out great work for them.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Jillian, you're going to sit backstage. I will see you in New York soon, but thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Such good work. I can just watch that over and over again. Much more to come. As always, we invite you to go to indieagency.news. Number one, you can learn about membership and the benefits of membership. Members get priority on a lot of things, including this little schmutzy indie work live. Love doing this. Absolutely love doing the show. And by the way, it doesn't have to be new work. If you've done some work from 5 years ago, 10 years ago that you want to talk about, we want to talk about it, because the most important thing is that we're educating each other and inspiring each other to do the very best. A reminder again, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, it is Liar Liar featuring Alexander Ray. How about featuring? It's been a long week. Jeez. And then of course, Monday Kai D. Wright, and Bennett Bennett. We'll have more information about programming next week as well. On behalf of everybody at Indie Agency News, I'm Doug Zanger. See you next time.